the face or anything.
No doubt.
Okay, all right.
Okay, we live. Welcome to the Beat People Podcast. This is episode 59, long overdue. You know what the shame part is Ken is always making us miss the shows.
Whoa, hold
Shut
on
up.
now.
And then
Listen up, sir.
Beat People Podcast, as I said, this is live and direct. We got a couple guests. We got Kinkas. What's up, man?
How you doing?
All right. Good to have you.
AKA DIY synth guy.
Synth DIY guy.
Synth
That's
DIY.
He
You know
can't
what?
pronounce neither one of them.
That's only because in Spanish, like the method of words is like reversed from English, right? So what I said was right.
Is that your story, Ken?
Just trust me. Just go with it. Just go with it.
Okay, cool. And we also
They're
got
like,
Jim
yeah.
from,
Your math's not adding up.
We also got Jim from Ear Monkey Music, and also does stuff with Sonic State as well. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, it's good to be here. First time.
Good to have you, man. So me and Ken was sitting here. We got tired of talking to each other. We was like, we should get some other people. Let's see what happens.
I was like, I know people that are way more interesting than us. Let's piggyback off of them.
That's right. No doubt. So
There's a lot of synthesizer on this screen right now.
There sure is. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Let's do that. What you got in the back of you, Kinkos? What's that back there?
This
Well,
is
like that's a lot, but
it's just my big Euro rack that's been growing since I started the YouTube channel.
nice.
I get a lot of kids to do reviews and build videos.
Nice.
That's basically my racket, so that I could have a big modular without having to shell out the cash.
Nice. I like it. And that red system, what's that? Is
The
that a
red
lizard?
system is the Vinicius Electric lizard system. It's
Yeah.
a designer from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He designs the modules, and then they get manufactured in Pennsylvania. And they're selling right now. They sell the full system as well as the individual modules. It's pretty cool hybrid system. Some digital stuff, some analog stuff. I've got this is my main. The rack root is my live rig.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I folded up, put it in the nylon bag, and take it with me. It's got a lot of Joranalog stuff up here. I just got a Euclidean circles, Monsoon, the Bifaco hex mix system.
Dope.
There. And I'm testing out some new MIDI to CD converters. So I got the Magella one. It's a nice polyphonic 4-voice MIDI to CD converter, super precise, super in tune. And Expert Sleepers just sent me the FH2 with a couple expanders.
Dope.
I'm an instrument guy. This is my favorite controller in the world.
Nice.
And with that thing, with the FH2, I can use 4-voice MPE protocol with the modular. So I can have independent control over 5 different modulation
Oh, nice.
parameters. So you got velocity, pressure, vertical movement, and side to side, which is pitch. So you can do really natural vibratos and glissandi and all that. So it's really easy to plug it into the iPad and just go. But in the modular, you need something like that. I need like 24 outputs that I can map to different things in the modular.
That's nuts.
Quite a spaghetti monster.
That's right. That's dope. I've always gone back and forth about the instrument. Like there's been times I'm like, ooh, that's dope. I want to check it out. Then there's been times I'm like, yeah, whatever. So,
Yeah,
I guess
it's
you
like
haven't
when
run
you
into Roger Lynn himself, because if you did,
Yeah.
you would just buy it.
Yeah.
when you sit and hear Roger play the thing, you're like, I need one of those. And you're like,
Yeah.
I can probably never do what he does.
that's
The
right.
thing is, I'm actually a bass player, so the way the pads are laid out in fourths and chromatically, when I ran into Roger at Synthplex, he put a cello patch on this thing for me, the Swam Instruments, and I just could play it. I could play it. I already have like vibrato technique.
Mhm.
In 5 minutes, I felt like Yo-Yo Ma on this thing, and I was just like, shit, I need to buy it. And I just got in debt and bought it.
There you go.
I'll tell you what, he's very good at when you go to see him demonstrate things, he's very good at getting you super enthused about whatever he's talking about. He has a very infectious personality.
He does.
I can listen to that guy talk about anything.
Yeah,
Me too.
He could be given the weather report, and I'm like mesmerized because the way he talks is just amazing.
It's cool. Yeah, you know what's interesting is how approachable he is too. I mean, the first time I met him, I was actually kind of amazed. I'm like, wait, this is like a 40-minute conversation, just standing around and with Roger Lynn. What are the odds? But he's
one
that
of the
kind of
fathers
person.
of hip hop, man. If you think about it.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
He was funny. Oh, go ahead, Ken.
I was just gonna say, like, there's a few of those guys that are like that. Like him, when I speak to Dave Rossum, he's the same way. It's like these are guys that have been doing this for forever, you know, but they're every bit as into it now as they were day one, you know, and that's just really dope. Like I love and I'm just super inspired by people that can maintain that level of passion, because a lot of people, like, they'll be into something and then they'll get wrapped up and then life happens and then they, you know, the passion kind of, you know, it might still be there, but it kind of wanes and dies out a bit, you know, as far as what their enthusiasm level is. And those guys,
they're down to earth too. There's no ego, you know. Roger answers my emails within the day. No matter, you know,
Roger's very responsive. I mean, that's evident by what happened with the whole Tempest thing, you know, like when that happened, it was like he saw what was going on in the community and he wanted to be
he jumped on
right
in
away, you know. So that was, you know, that speaks a lot to that type of personality, you know. And if you're building products like that, like I remember following the Linstrument before it came out, it was, you know, hold on, let me add this idiot. I mean, guy, this really great guy. Hopefully.
I heard that.
Oh, no. Brad from Isla Instruments. We were just talking about Roger Lynn.
Where's that? I'm hearing a real bad hum. Where's that coming from?
Maybe hopefully that's not.
Oh.
I don't hear a hum.
Hold on.
That's probably over there with your headphones or something.
Let me check here.
Actually, I hear it.
Is it going yet?
No, it doesn't bother me that much.
Well, I just muted all.
I hear it.
inputs.
I hear it a bit too, but it's very low frequency.
It sounds it's low frequency, like sub almost. It sounds like mic feedback or something.
Speakers, so if it's low frequency, I'm not getting it.
Let me see if it goes away real quick.
Yes, it went away. Yeah,
totally went away.
Yeah, it's your trend.
I think it's this. I think it's this. Well, I think it's the springs in this. It might be the springs in this are vibrating.
I think it's me. I think it's me because when I muted my mic, it went away.
Oh, was it you, Jim?
No, it's not. It's Ken.
Ken's shoddy gear.
You know what's messed up is that I've been on for Ken.
We could just do this show without Ken anyway, can't we?
Yeah.
I think most people would prefer that.
You know what's funny is that I've been on with Ken for a little while now, and so I didn't even hear it until you said that when you got on.
Well, when I saw that,
when
I saw that mic, I thought Ken was going to play some harmonica for us.
Or sing some Elvis Presley.
I mean,
I keep it upside down. This is my anti-Presley situation. That's why the Presley mic is upside down.
Well, let me jump in on the Roger Lynn thing because you know, I was at Synthplex last year. Corey, I know I saw you there. Going to be there in a few weeks again, and he was like Ken was saying, he's so approachable. You know, we were in a room and he and Dave Rossum walked in the same room, and they had this like little vintage synth museum. If you were there, you remember that? Yeah. And a friend of mine is like, "That's Roger Lynn. That's Dave Rossum." I'm like, "Yeah, go talk to these guys. They're so approachable that, you know, just talk to them." And so he went up and he started talking to Roger and there's the Linstrument. But one of the things that Roger said that was so funny to me, he goes, "You know, he says, every day in my life, I'm just a normal guy. I go to the grocery store, I go to anywhere. No one knows who I am." He goes, but then I come to one of these things, like a synth show. He goes, and it's like if this was a plumber's convention and I'm the guy that invented pipe. But isn't that true? I mean,
it is true.
He has that status among us, and yet he still maintains he's just a real guy who will talk to you about whatever it is he's doing or his thoughts about something, which I think is really cool.
It is.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
He's easygoing, really approachable, and anybody that's ever met him says the same thing, no matter what.
And
look, what's Ken switching out the parts in his mic now?
No, I can placing the back of my hand on the this arm, I can physically feel a vibration traveling through.
Oh, so it's transformer hum, is it coming from you?
Yeah, either that or you got some sex toys down there that you don't want to.
I've got but I plugged in a bunch of new gear, so there's a bunch of transformers on the ground that I think my my mic cable is actually across, and I think that's
lift it off then.
Well, yeah, but I got to get behind there, and I got a bunch of gear on the floor that I just plugged in.
See? What was I saying? He's hiding them.
No doubt.
Yeah, well, anyway, don't worry about it. I can switch my mic on and off, and you could shut your faces. But no, so, yeah.
So let's introduce, we got
Brad on here, so it's a
Brad
nice little
from Isla
segue that
Instruments.
as we were just talking about Kinkus has his Lindstrument with him, and that kind of brought on the Dave Rossum or the Roger Lynn conversation, and in the same breath I was saying that
is that Kinkus Moroida?
Yes.
Oh, hey man.
Okay, but is it Kinkas or is it Kinsas?
Kinkas.
It's quinoa.
No.
No?
Just think of the word king, like king,
Kinkas.
and kas.
Kinkas.
So so we have Brad from Isla Instruments, and you have met these people as well. So I guess we can kind of roll into that.
I've met two of them, and I've only met Kinkas online. Yeah.
Hold
Okay.
on, I have to get
You haven't met Jim?
Baby here.
I met Jim. You were at,
Oh, that's right. Hello, we were at the damn NerdCon.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
It's good to have you on, though, Brad.
Sorry, mate.
It's good to have you on, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking me on. I haven't even really washed my hands. I've been laying block paving all day.
Oh, really?
Coronavirus. Why?
Corona block.
Oh, don't even tell me about the coronavirus, man. I just booked my flight for Super Booth, and now people are talking about it maybe being canceled.
I've been watching this coronavirus thing quite intently, and honestly, I believe it's so much media hype.
Agree.
And because yes, this okay, so it started in China, and as some people have already seen from my latest newsletter, most of my guys and factories and everyone in China, they're all back to business as usual now, and it's gone and passed, and I'm like, really? Is everyone okay? Are you all healthy? Yeah, it's gone and passed. It's like, so they're dealing with it like, it's done. And of course, you turn CNN on, and it's like, we're all gonna fucking die.
That's right.
It's and there are legitimately people around here down in South Florida. There's sorry, I swear like you swear words like vibes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No,
hey, listen, every time you swear, put a S2400 in the bin.
I add another letter to the nothing.
What's your fucking language, dude?
It's seriously, you go in Publix down here now, which is Publix is a supermarket in Florida. I don't know if it's anywhere else. You're only allowed to buy one crate of water. There's people going to buy water and everything now, panic buying.
Yeah, everything is sold out like it's the zombie apocalypse.
Absolutely ridiculous. But it's not.
Purell is sold out.
Purell and antibacterial wipes, everything's sold out.
And when this thing is over, people are just gonna have like these huge storage houses full of stuff.
Well, Corey and I both live in California, so I kind of have an earthquake kit. Not kidding.
Yeah.
And what's an earthquake kit?
It's like where you keep just some of those basic things
that you might need.
Now you have a zombie apocalypse kit too.
But that's just the reality here in California. I mean, I keep a case of water.
Mexico
I keep extra toilet paper.
2017, everything shook over here.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that like I've got quite a few friends in China, different factories, and I know that while the factories are open, most of the workers that can work from home are still on homework. Like they still have to stay home, and there's still a lot of lockdown going on, depending on where you're at, and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I take it seriously, but at the same time, I'm the father of kids with immune deficiencies. So for that level, I'm more acute about it, but for myself, it's like, okay, well, I got whiskey, I'll drink it out.
But going back to Superbooth, from what I've heard, they're moving forward unless Berlin shuts down.
Exactly.
They're not going to cancel it. Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is that there's several other shows in the same area. Like there's a travel show that's like the world's #1 travel show, and something else. They're all they're right there in Berlin with it, and they've canceled. They're like, forget it. I even heard that the keynote speaker for South by Southwest canceled on South by Southwest.
Yeah, South by Southwest is done, from what I heard.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
really?
it's been canceled, and
well, I guess we have high immunity because of anthrax, right? So
yeah, no.
well, that's kind of what I was going to say
Seriously.
is that all of these events, no matter what's going on in the world, whenever I go out to any major event, I kind of plan for the next few days when I get back to be sick. And just like with NAMM, I was sick for about 3 days when I got back. It's just, and I wash my hands diligently while I'm out there. Like I try to be very aware of like.
But you can't wash your hands and spit and expect
and you
that
can't touch
everything's
your
gonna be
face all the
okay.
time.
I mean, listen, just because I touch the synthesizers, lick my palm, and then twist the knobs at every convention I go to, that's only because I want to share my love.
They do make out as if it's like, oh, hi, nice to meet you.
That's right.
But those things go for higher prices on eBay.
Yeah, I
right.
didn't even see Ken at NAMM, but I'd show up to a synthesizer and there was
This one's slimy.
Yeah, and it's like Ken was here.
You're like, I know this Musk.
No doubt.
You know, that all being said, though, there is a point where I actually do, like, when it first started happening, I thought, like, is this corny or whatever? But I actually do prefer, like, when I'm at conventions or whatever, just give me a fist bump or something, man. Like, we don't have to fully shake unless we're doing business. True. We don't need to shake.
I agree.
Right. It's true. That's why I just keep it moving.
No French kissing.
So,
well,
hey,
Corey usually just like hocks a loogie in people's faces. So.
But then Corey,
well, you know, it depends on which faces we're talking about.
That's just me. That's just me.
That's right. That's right. Hey,
yeah,
yo.
but then there's like Nobcon. There's me, Corey, and Daryl, and what was he the other guy? Like five of us in your motor, all going off for pizza, sat around a table. If you're going to spread a virus, that's
that's right, right there. And we were in close quarters in that pizza
Five of us in the car, all trying to fight to speak at the same time.
It's our version of a wet market.
No doubt. Oh man.
So just to quickly kind of get this stuff out of the way, because Brad had released a newsletter. Can we touch on the newsletter?
You can touch my newsletter if you want. Yeah.
Just do it in private.
So Brad released a newsletter recently that kind of gave some update on the S2400, and it had a name change. So that's the first thing, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
What do you want me to tell you about it?
You tell us whatever you want to tell us about that. I'm asking you the question.
No, I had a chat with Dave, and as you already said, Dave Rossum's a lovely guy. There's no bones, no hiding the fact that obviously the S2400 is heavily influenced by the SP1200, which is a trademark of EMU Systems Inc. No, I think a lot of people had reached out to Dave thinking that the SP2400 was something to do with him, and that's not fair on him. He's doing his own thing. And we had a chat online, and it's not really any skin off my nose to change the name. Everyone knows what the machine is and what it does and what it's supposed to be. And between ourselves, we agreed, brand separation. Don't confuse this with my stuff, and it's a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, no problem, let me change the name, and everyone's happy.
Well, I can tell you, when I spoke to him at NAMM, he was nothing but positive words about what you were doing too.
It was we'd scheduled a call with each other, and you know what? A little side note on that: he was at Universal Audio. Obviously, he was at work when we had the Skype conversation, and his dog was next to him, and I'm like, "There's just," and he's like, "Yeah, there's loads of dogs running around inside Universal Audio." I'm like, "That is awesome." So we sat there, and then I've got my dogs in the garage, and we're comparing dogs with each other and stuff. No, he was just a really lovely guy. And obviously he's an absolute hero of mine. And so I'd never want to cause anyone any distress or anything like that with any of this stuff. So it was just really easy thing for me today. Hey, I'll just fucking take the P out the name. No problem, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I like it though.
You know, and that might make, you know, he might have plans to release an updated version of the SP himself as well at some point. So whether he does or whether he doesn't, there's no confusion between our machines now, you know?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where, like, I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, we know what it is. Like,
yeah, I was choking over my words when I was talking, because it's actually the first time that I'd spoke to him. So then when we scheduled to call and we sat there face to face, I was like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Rossum."
It was really nice, because when I spoke with him, I said,
"Is there any chance you can get me some discount on some UAD plugins?"
Yeah, really. Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people don't seem to realize is that that's who he is right now. Is like a lot of people, they only focus on the EMU past, and they don't really realize that, like, okay, he's the guy behind like Apollos, and he's the guy behind the chips, and you know, this is.
You know, there was a really interesting question that I completely forgot. That was at the front of my mind, that I wanted one question that I'd always wanted to ask him. And it was at the front of my mind, and of course we get chatting about stuff, and we get chatting about SSM chips and all, you know, those things that he designed. And I wanted to say to him, back in the day, like years and years ago, early 2000s, late 90s, I made a little bit of money by making custom sound fonts. Do you remember those sound fonts?
Totally.
Because I was an AWE 32 fan, and then the Sound Blaster Live and the Audigy and all of that after that. But I used to make sound fonts years and years ago, and I always had this. I always had this little thing that I wanted to do. I always thought that all of the EMU, like Planet Fat, Orbit, and all of those machines were literally just sound font players. I thought that the contents of those ROMs that were in those, because they were all the same machine, they just had a different ROM, and I was convinced that those ROMs were sound fonts stored in ROM. And I meant to ask him that question: are they just sound fonts? And so then that would open that up, that you could reflash, you know, like an Orbit or something like that with a different sound font and make it a different machine. And I forgot to ask him.
Wow,
I got carried away with him.
Yeah, it's really interesting though, like when you think about like all the different things that he's had his hands in and still has his hands in today, and a lot of people don't realize that, like, this dude is still super active. Like, he's every bit as active today in the music industry as he was back then, but a lot of people don't realize, and it's like, well, you see how prevalent the Apollo range is in people's setups today.
Yeah, I've got two. I've got the Apollo 16 and the
a lot
Apollo.
Of people don't realize that's direct result from this guy. You know what I mean? It's really impressive that somebody can be in it that long and be that relevant. You know, and like I said, he's such a nice guy, because, you know, I pulled him aside. I had to literally, like, kind of hunt him down at NAMM, because he wasn't there presenting with Rossum Electro Music, which is his modular company. He was just kind of there for meetings and whatnot with Universal Audio and with SSI. So he was kind of just floating around, and I spotted him out the corner of my eye, and luckily, like, I've had conversations with him before to where he recognized me, and I was able to corner him and say, "So off the record, what do you think about the 2400?" You know, and I got to really kind of corner him about this, because I wanted to get his genuine opinion on it, and it was nothing but positive things. It wasn't any animosity. It was just, you know, the only thing he had said was, "Hey, like, you know, I just want to make sure that there isn't any brand confusion," and the fact that you kind of went ahead and handled that before it became any kind of issue is, you know,
I was more worried about what people were going to say to me for changing her name. But it doesn't it's a nothing thing, really.
Yeah.
I dig it though. The S2400 has a good ring.
Yeah, but now everyone's saying, "Oh, Akai's going to be on your back now."
For what, the S9? Because they can't damn copyright S. And they never got up that far with the thing.
So are you considering doing an S950,000?
Yeah. And, you know, it was actually something that I said to, because I reached out to Dave actually right as I started embarking on the project. And I'd said, you know, because there wasn't much communication back then. And it was, Dave said to me, you know, if I had $1 for everyone that emailed me and told me that they were going to do a new SP1200 clone, I'd be, well, I'm sure he is probably a wealthy guy, but he said, you know, I think he said he averages something like 4 or 5 people a month email him to say that they're planning on cloning an SP1200. And it's like, so I was like, wow, that many people.
That is a lot. Jeez. You know what's funny is when I did,
and then 3 of us come along at once.
Yeah, all
at the same
time.
Right?
When I saw him at NAMM, like Kim was saying, he was really humble. He was like, you know, had good things to say about it. And I was like, come on, you pissed off, ain't you? He's like, no, it's really good. I'm like, you look pissed off. Ain't you pissed off? I mean, just push though. He was not. He was so like even kill.
I think it would be more interesting for everyone if there was beef or something like that. But there isn't. And that's testament to the kind of guy he is. He's like, you know, and pretty much, you know, pretty much everything that you can look at, especially in the synthesizer and drum machine and sampler community, is all work, is all prior art. Everything is, you know, okay, the polyphonic synth comes along, then there's another polyphonic, or you know, everything was just an extension of what someone else did before, and the whole industry is completely incestuous like that. So it's
and let me ask this question, because I'm not a designer, I don't create this stuff, but obviously there's a lot of this kind of thing going around in the community right now. How much of that relationship that you have with Dave is good because you just talked to him and you just said, hey, this is what I'm doing, I respect what you're doing, and you went from there? I mean, open communication. Isn't that kind of the key?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think he also said, you know, it's the highest form of flattery, you know, that you can give. Let's not mention names like Uli Beringer, but doing shit like that is fucking bang out of order in my book.
But see, that's what I'm hearing.
But that's the difference. It's like, hey, I'm going to go trademark this name and rip off what you've done. Whereas there's, yeah, okay, I better not go there.
No, I get it though. I get it. Yeah. Without a doubt. And there's a clear difference. A clear difference. I feel like what you're doing is this. There's that. I mean, what you're doing is you're paying respect and paying homage.
I emailed Dave right at the start, right before I even did that silly leak of the PCB. In fact, it's almost a year ago to the day. It was, I think it was like the 1st of March or something like that I did it. But I reached out to Dave before I did that and said, because I was excited, and I was like, hey, Dave, I know that, you know, this emu doesn't exist anymore, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing this. And at the time, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but at the time, there wasn't any response. That's now clear why there wasn't any response, because now we've talked. He's like, dude, I get several emails a week or a month by people telling me that they're starting this project. So he really didn't obviously have any interest in taking any notice of me until, oh, well, okay, this guy has actually followed through and not followed through, like followed through on his plans. And so then the relationship started up. Yeah.
And also to the point, like, you know, Rossum is, like we said, he's a legend. He also is not new to the industry. And this is very evident in certain things that he does that you'll notice that other people copy, that you will say, oh, well, isn't that obvious? And it wasn't obvious to others. And one of those things that I'll point out to is, if you notice at NAMM videos now in like the modular area, all the guys that, you know, at least invest in their videos and whatnot, they have headsets with a mic. That was literally all Dave Rossum.
That really
I was there the year that
exist.
he did that first, and he was the guy who was like, "No, this is how we're gonna set up to do these demos at NAMM because NAMM is way too loud." And he came with like headsets with all this, and it's the little attention to detail that this guy has that sets him apart from everybody else.
It's not just that. If you cast your memory back to the start, well, not your memory, but go back to the start of synthesis, not the start, but synthesis, polyphonic synthesis. You got people like Dave Rossum, Doug Curtis, but let's take Dave Rossum. He fucking designed most of the SSM chips, right? He is extremely responsible for polyphonic synthesis and, the Prophet 5. We all know the story behind that. It's very difficult not to replicate or do something that guy hasn't already done because he's done most of the shit with the Wii U.
That's the fact.
It's real
that's
difficult
the fact.
to
Like,
avoid
he's the guy, and that's the thing is like he actually. Other people get credit for a lot of the things that he kind of, if it wasn't for him, that stuff wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? But there's bigger personalities or bigger, you have your Steve Jobs of the industries, and then you have your Wozniaks of the industries. And he's kind of like the Wozniak type guy. He's the guy who's like behind it all, actually making it happen. And then other people are like, oh, well, I can use your work, you know?
That's a good comparison.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so let's talk let's talk little FM things real quick.
Yeah, let's check it out. So this wasn't at NAMM though, but it's all good. Let's see, is it up there?
My segue was abrupt and rough, and
it was. Your face is covered now. So okay, so the model cycles. This was just announced the last week, 2 weeks ago. I went to the Perfect Circuit release for it, and I have to say I'm not necessarily a fan of this new sort of format and size that they have, but I do understand why a lot of people dig it. But then when I went to see it, I was like, yo, this joint actually sounds really good. So hold on, excuse, where'd it go? Is it still there? Yeah, it's there. So yeah, it actually sounds really good, and it basically is what they've done is they've taken the digitone and they've done a lot of programming to it, and take 6 voices of the digitone and made them they've purpose made them for the kick, the snare, for each instrument, and added a few things, and it actually sounds pretty dope. I don't know if any of you all have run into it or heard anything about it, but let me see what y'all thoughts are on it.
What is it? An FM, desktop FM?
It's an FM drum machine, desktop FM drum machine. Yes, but it has 6 different instruments. So like it has, the kick, snare, hat, and maybe a miscellaneous sort of tone for percussion stuff, maybe a clap. Then it has a tone, which is basically one voice of the digitone, one FM voice of the digitone, and then it has a chord machine on it. So it'll play chords and they'll be able to assign them to different pads and stuff. So it's pretty interesting.
It's interesting in the fact that it's kind of similar to how like the rhythm is done, where I think the rhythm's 8 voices, but each voice is like a specific algorithm of it's a specific style voice setup, and then you can change those voices to an extent inside of there, but they're specific, and this is kind of doing the same thing with FM, where each percussive voice is a specific algorithm of FM, and then you can manipulate that algorithm from there.
And it sounds pretty good. Then it has the Electron sequencer on it too. So if you're familiar with the Electron sequencer, but the difference between this sort of new format that they're doing, it's the same format as the model samples.
Yeah, it's the same, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's basically the same box. So the difference with this and their other stuff is that it's like knob per function. Everything is very immediate and right there. So it's something different for them. But I definitely think, honestly, I think this one is much more interesting than the sample one.
The price is really crazy too. Like it's pretty low price, right? Like it's like $300 or something like that.
Yeah, like 300.
Wow. They do make some real sexy looking gear as well, Electron. They've got their style proper down.
I'm on the fence about it because to me it looks very like it looks like a prototype. Like it looks like, okay, here's like the basic layout, but then there's not much more on it. And I can see how some people can like that, and I can also see how some people could take away from that.
It looks good sitting in this graphic like this, but I do think it looks like a bar of soap otherwise.
I always say that Electron gear always looks to me like laboratory equipment. It's like, okay,
yeah, it does have that kind of
but,
vibe.
you know, if that appeals, then, you know, hey, do it, you know.
Well, we say that, and
I
then
think
you look at like
they're Swedish, right? Electron.
Yeah.
Are they Swedes? That's the Swedish vibe of everything. They're very like, as you just said, Jim, like medical clinical equipment. They're very like just clinical and to the point. It's utilitarian.
You can also look at Eurorack and be like, okay, well that looks like lab equipment. So it's like, it's okay, lab equipment from the 90s, early 2000s, or lab equipment from the 50s. But either way, it's like a lot of us music guys love lab equipment. So. Yep,
and I agree. See, I still like the. I still like colors. Look at a Jupiter 8. That gets me. That gets me kind of.
Yeah, but you're not a lab equipment guy. You're an '80s synth guy. Like
I am.
You like that '80s pop synth vibe, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get it twisted.
Dig that too, though.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. There's nothing wrong with that. Those Oberheim blue lines. Come on.
I don't.
I've been made fun of. I've been made fun of my Oberheim OB6 or my OB6 blue lines.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. I want a Fismo, not for the engine. I want a Fismo for that fuchsia.
And for the name.
Yeah, and for the name. Give me a Prophet 2000 for the fuchsia.
But here's the thing that often gets, you know, buried in online discussions is that if it works for you, it works for you. If it inspires you, go for it. Just because it doesn't inspire me doesn't mean it doesn't inspire Ken or someone else, you know what I mean? Go for
it.
Even
a Timberwolf.
Yeah.
All right. Listen.
Well, I've seen people.
It was nice having you on the show, but now you gotta go.
And then he has one to throw up on the screen.
Is it really that bad, that machine?
That's the Tomcat. The Tomcat's not as bad as the Rhythm Wolf.
Oh, that's not. Yeah.
It's not fantastic, but for the price point at that time, it like I've got all those machines, and the Tom, I think, in my opinion, is probably the best of all of them.
It's good.
It's kind of like a little mini 909.
But that's the whole thing is like, you know, some people are going to click with something and they're not going to click with something else. And it doesn't even matter because if it inspires you to make music and you can do something with it and you enjoy it, who cares?
That's right. Amen. I agree with that because I've seen people, listen, I don't get on with things like the Volca and the pocket operators. I remember when the pocket operators, the first year they were out, I went to NAMM and they sent me all of them, whatever they had. There was like 4 of them.
Let's come up with product names that we can say and see if Jim calls it.
That's right. It's like a game. That's right.
Elka Synthex.
You know what? I have to say this. My secretary, she bought me this for Christmas. I mean,
which one is that one?
This is the tonic.
Okay, because I got the KO, and the KO is so fantastic. This is like a mini pocket SP because
I gave mine away, man. I couldn't deal with the pocket calculator.
I couldn't deal with it either.
This
man.
thing right here, though, I'm telling you, is the most fun in a sampler I've had in I can't tell you how long. Just because it's super limited. But it's limited to a positive, not to a negative. It's like, okay, this is what you have to work with. The thing is like a calculator, so don't expect more. But man, it's just stupid fun, and it sounds really good. Like,
so I don't think when it comes to the pocket operators for me, like I said, they sent me all of them. Then I was going on a trip to London, so it was like, cool. I got some little music machines that I can use in the hotel on the flight, and I did not like it. I didn't love it. It was too fiddly, and I pressed one thing, and you know, if you keep, maybe I'm just like, right? But one thing's popping up, the other one's spinning around, and I'm like, all right.
I
don't nail these damn things.
I don't want to get too. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty dope.
Unbelievably fun. Like I did not expect it brought me back to when I was using like Atari Punk consoles and little pedals.
What is that, Kinkas?
This is the Pico System 3 by Ericasynths.
Right, yeah.
And this thing costs $450, and it's got 13 modules in it.
Wow.
It's the only thing in Eurorack that has a booklet style card preset.
Yeah, they had that on display at NobCon. They had some really cool.
So I actually made
cool.
My first one here is called the Angry Robot, and the coolest thing about the preset card is that you can expand the synth with this thing, because you can use diodes and capacitors and resistors and create
your own circuit, huh?
Gates to trigger converters. You can create rectifiers. You can create mixers. You can mult anything to anything without having to use like an actual mult. So it's like super exciting, this thing. And
dope.
Of course, yeah, the knobs are tiny, but since they're made into the same panel and the same PCB, there's no actual divisions. The spacing is actually fairly playable. Like I did not expect to have as much fun as I'm having with this whole thing.
It looks super easy to avoid the warranty.
It looks like there is no warranty, which is cool. Like that thing is dope, and it's like what you point out though, that it's the early Buchla stuff had cards like that, and then they ended up doing electronic cards also. Yeah. But it makes you wonder, like, could you adapt, like, if you wrote something on a Teensy that you could put to that thing, and then you could have like a digital preset management in that. You
definitely could. It wouldn't be. I mean, they've done that for. There's a preset for the iPad, for the Buchla easel that you can plug in, and you can
that's
have
crazy. I haven't seen that one
on your iPad, and just load them into the card, the digital card that goes into the easel. So that's it's a lot of fun. Hey guys, I'm gonna have to say goodbye because I have to take the girls to a kids party.
Oh, that's not
Hey,
allowed.
thank you for coming on though.
No, it's been fun having you on, man. We got to have you again. Thanks for stopping by.
And definitely, if you guys are watching, check out Synth DIY Guy on YouTube.
Yeah, I just uploaded a Pico video today on there, and I'm uploading the Alturia MIDI Theremin kind of thing soon. So Synth DIY Guy on YouTube. Thanks, guys.
Check it out.
Thanks, man.
See you later.
Later.
Cool. So, at this point, I want to talk about this thing. Who's heard about this thing? This is.
Oh, that looks so amazing.
Yeah.
I was an Amiga boy.
I had a feeling that you would like this, Brad. Like,
I was an Amiga boy through and through. Octamed is how I started making music, and I chatted to him the other day on Instagram. Like, I sent him a couple of pictures of my two Commodore CD TVs up there. I'm like, right, I don't need to use these anymore. I was like, yes, this looks awesome. Yeah,
it's pretty nice.
I was a Commodore guy, but I was never really a tracker guy like that. I had Nano Loop, and I had the there was a tracker for NES, MIDI NES, and a couple others. But yeah, like I never got really big into the tracker workflow.
Octamed.
Can you tell me some advantages of that workflow that you're looking forward to?
There are no advantages.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
There are no advantages.
I didn't expect that.
let me tell you how old school I am. In the 90s, I had this friend who had a kid who came over to, and I was like, I'm recording stuff. I'm just basically doing I'm using Cool Edit Pro as my recorder. It wasn't even really a digital audio workstation. It was just like multi-track recording. And he comes over and he starts showing me these trackers. He's like, hey, do you know what a tracker is? I'm like, no. He's like, look how cool this is. And I'm like, that doesn't look that cool to me.
That looks like numbers just going down the spreadsheet.
And I didn't get it. That's how old school I am.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, this thing looks cool. And what excites me, Gaz gets excited about everything. Gaz Williams.
Oh yeah, freaking
Gaz. And
that's right. That what Brad just did is Gaz was like when I run into Gaz at NAMM, he's like, all my favorite people are here.
Yeah, but you know what? I love the guy. I mean, we roomed at NAMM.
He's a legend.
We shared a room at NAMM, and I didn't sleep. Obviously. But
can you?
Well, okay. Do you want to explain that a bit more, Jim?
Hey, listen, he roomed with me too, and Gaz is when Gaz comes over to spend the night, it's an event.
Yeah,
that sounds like a show, like
Gaz is
like
the kind
a
of guy.
movie, like Weekend at Bernie's.
I'm gonna give you a real quick story about Gaz. Gaz is the kind of guy who will hit you up. Surprisingly, this was forward thinking for Gaz. He hit me up the week before NAMM and said, "Hey, I'm gonna be in California. I know you're going to NAMM too. I'm coming from the UK and I don't have a place to stay, and I don't plan on booking one either. I'm thinking about going to a camping store and picking up a sleeping bag while I'm out there. Do you know of any place that I can fall asleep at?"
That's a British way, man.
I'm just like, Gaz, you can crash with us, like whatever.
But you know what? There's a beauty in that, because he's so open to new things, and that's why when I look at something like this, I go, if this excites him, it gives it a little bit of validity to me, because it's like, okay, why is he so excited? So I need to check this thing out, honestly. And it may not excite me, but it's something new. It's something different.
Yeah.
So did that kid get you turned on to trackers, Jim?
No.
Oh. Okay.
No, are you kidding? I was actually playing guitar at that time, so I just give me my Strat and I'm happy.
Yeah, like the Amiga was a huge. There was a huge scene on the Amiga for trackers and a lot of like cracked tros. There was a huge scene for cracked games and pirated games on the Amiga, and so trackers were heavily used then to do all of the chiptune music and the sample base. Amiga had 4 channels of I think it was 22 kilohertz audio.
Oh.
In fact, Axwell, if any of you know who Axwell is from the Swedish House Mafia, you ever heard of those guys?
I love Swedish House Mafia.
Right. So Axwell, who started out actually as a soulful house guy, I was a big fan. He actually started as his name was Quasar of Sanction, and so Axwell came from trackers, and he was a big celebrity in the tracker scene on the Amiga, and made loads of crack tros, which is a little fun snippet of a fact there for you.
That's actually pretty
I know
dope,
some real fucking useless knowledge.
No, I don't know if that's useless, especially in context of this machine, because I'm not familiar with trackers. So this is actually good information. It's pretty dope.
So just to give you a heads up, if you're not familiar with trackers, this is a leak of the actual screen, and I'm sharing the screen on it, right? You guys can see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so if you'll notice, like basically per step you get note data, velocity data, and you can input it that way. Now I assume this is going to allow you to do real-time input and that sort of thing, but instead of reading it out in blocks like you would see on drum machine or like MPC or that sort of thing, you get this grid layout like this, and it's pretty much numbers based.
Yeah, it's basically
so
what you call
precise.
a list editor in Cubase.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at that screen and I feel like I'm in like 1999 or something like that,
Yeah, very. It's interesting because if you go and listen to go listen to some chiptune, right? Because most of the real chiptune music is made on trackers, and your mind will kind of get blown with some of the melodic things that are done in chiptune music, because a lot of that stuff is done with very limited voices. Like you might have 4 voices or something and that's 4 voices across the drums. All of your drums, the bass line, the lead line, and your melody, like everything all together might be 4 tracks or even 3.
There is a very cool program. I'm not sure who's got control of being able to show the screens and stuff. But there's a real cool program for anyone that's interested in chiptunes and doing stuff like that. You either have to have an old laptop or an older machine that's got an Adlib card or a Sound Blaster, anything up to Sound Blaster 16, which had the OPL3, the Yamaha OPL3 chip inside. It's called Adlib Tracker, or if you go to adlibtracker.net, if you look at that quickly on the screen now and go to the screenshots page and scroll down it on the video, it's a DOS-based program, but what that really does, it really unlocks the old Yamaha OPL3 chip, which was I think a 19-voice FM synth on a chip, and that's just a tracker, but it communicates directly with the OPL3 chip And some of the demos that have been made on that piece of software are absolutely mind-blowing if you're a chiptune freak, because you know you're unleashing the power of it, and the sounds that you can make with that thing are ridiculous. It's I really nerd off about shit like this. I'm sorry.
I hate it, but I may fall off into this world right now. This is
if you know, I mean, you listen to some of the demos on YouTube. There is one in particular, and you just listen to the synth voices that are coming out this chip, and you'll fall in love. Let me give you one as an example. If you look on YouTube for Adlib Tracker, Corridors of Time, which is a piece of music. I can't remember what game it's from, but it's a remake of it just using that tracker, and it's like, oh my god! And that's all coming out of an OPL3 chip.
Wow. Okay,
I know.
I'm pull it up for
Corridors of Time on YouTube, Adlib Tracker. It's absolutely, man. That all comes out that little chip, and you're like, oh my god.
That's dope. Okay.
Yeah, and that's and if you look at the way that that's broken out into the sections there, like you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in those sections. That's how the tracker is built out. Yeah. So it looks like they're actually doing a straight up like
tracker,
full featured tracker.
Yeah,
named tracker, and but it also seems like it's a live looper.
It'd be interesting to see how that's received, though, by the younger generation, because a lot of the younger generation will be like, "What the fuck is a tracker?"
I tell you what, dudes rocking man buns. Dudes rocking man buns, the harder it is to use, are going to love it more and more. They're going to be like, oh, nobody else is going to be on this.
That's true.
I hand program every single note on
every bit.
I tell you what, if they release an extension that adds like 2 features and forces you to use chopsticks in order to program it, they're all about it.
Oh, you didn't track this? Well, I'm not listening to
it. Oh, you didn't record this with chopsticks?
I also make my own cheese.
That's right. with a gentleman's farm in the back
with chopsticks.
That's right, with chopsticks.
It will be interesting to see if they make that workflow like the tracker. What if they make it actually really intuitive and really fun to use? And if that's the case, then it's like, you can sort of get tracker type stuff going on in the newer MPCs, as well, really even in the older MPCs, because you can go into the MIDI editing of MPCs and you'll see all that data. Like, and that's basically what a tracker is.
List edit. It's list edit that you're getting a lot of, especially Cubase was quite heavy on the list edit, because if you messed something up, you could go into list edit and pinpoint where it was and fix it there. But
exactly. So it's like it's essentially like you're getting that exploded view of the list edit, but that's your actual work environment, you know? So if they can make that really, user friendly, that could be really powerful. There's potential there for it to be a really interesting concept, and something that, while aesthetically it might not be pleasing, functionality wise it might be.
I think you can kind of sort of, you can draw analogies between like programming languages, where you'd have a simplified, interpreted language like BASIC or C or something like that. And a tracker is somewhat closer to being like assembly language, where you're essentially doing the same thing that you're getting in a linear edit mode with something like Cubase and stuff like that. But that boils down to the same thing that a tracker is doing. It's just a tracker is kind of seemingly bringing you one step closer to the hardware that you're controlling, rather than using a mouse to sit there clicking in notes. It's all boiled down to the same thing. It's just, I think the tracker brings you a bit closer to the hardware. I think I really hope it works out for them, because it's an ambitious idea for sure, and I think that the format that they've put it in that sexy looking box.
That's the other thing, is that the actual hardware looks sexy. Like it looks like it's very sleek and well put together.
Seems a little bit Ableton. It looks a little bit Ableton push.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. If you're not familiar with trackers, you might look at that, and like for me, I'm not familiar with trackers. I looked at that and thought that this was, they got an Ableton thing going on. Like, you know what I mean? It's a clip launcher is what first thing I thought. But this is actually more interesting, and I kind of dig that, because somebody's daring to do something outside of the norm. I kind of dig that idea when it comes to that kind of device. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's one thing too. You know, you hear so many times people complain, "Oh, there's no innovation. Who's doing something new?"
Yeah,
and then you look at Polyend. I mean, look at some of the stuff they've come out with in the last few years. That sequencer they have, that I don't know,
it's called Polyseek.
Polyseek. They've got those drum triggers that will actually trigger physical drums and things like that. I mean, they're doing some cool stuff.
Polyperk. Yeah, Polyperk is the drum triggers, which I'm dying to get those in my setup. Like, that shit is dope.
Yeah, I'd love to have a real snare.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
imagine you're triggering your real snare from your, whatever.
And mic it up, but the key with that is that you can mic up a real drum set and take those Polyperks and then use whatever sequencer you're used to using, you know what I mean, and be able to trigger them off that. I think that's pretty dope.
So, I mean, going back, I mean, so many, and it's frustrating to me sometimes because people say we want innovation, and then people come out with innovation, and they're like, eh.
Yeah.
It's like give me something that I'm used to. It's like, what do you really want?
It's the people are fickle, man. I mean, the first thing they're like, look, for instance, with Brad, they were like, everybody's running around for 10, 15, 20 years. We want an SP. We want an SP. And then Brad does it. And people are like, oh, wait a minute. That ain't an SP. That's like, so what do you want? Then people are like, we want innovation, something innovative, because they're like, get that shit out of here.
Sounds like shit.
Yeah.
How dare you?
That's right. It's like, so it's almost like, oh, cool, we're doing something right. Because you just can't please everybody, and the internet's so fickle, man. It's crazy out there.
The internet's fickle?
Yeah.
Never.
Well, and going back to Gaz, because I know Gaz has one of these things. He's got one of these.
Nice.
Yeah, he mentioned that he can't really say anything other than what's already been leaked because he's under
everything that he said. Can't really say anything, but
the thing is, he's got one, he's used it, and he's still excited about it. So that's a good thing.
That's a good sign.
Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah, but he also uses
iPads. You imagine if there was a bit of gear and Gaz just said, "This is shit."
He's also the type to enjoy music making on iPad, which music making on iPad, like, there are fantastic apps on iPad, but I just don't get into making music on it. Like,
it's not my thing.
Like, I buy all the apps and I'm like, this is so cool for 3 minutes.
I know. I made that comment on a post the other day. Somebody's like, what synth should I get on iPad? I said, just do what I do. Buy them all and then never use any of them.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
Touching a glass screen that is just, in theory and on paper, it looks amazing because you can change your control interface and change a screen to control this, to do that. But there's just something about touching a glass like that that's just shit.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
No tactile feedback. It's horrific.
The thing that I've been waiting for is and Apple actually has a patent for it. Like, they filed for it a while back, is these tactile screens that can actually, like, the surface of the screen can morph and bubble up to go with what you're doing. And they had this patent like a while ago. So I've been waiting for that to where.
I don't want that.
Can you imagine?
That's going to work for porn before it works for audio.
Well, that's what's going to drive industry. I mean, all jokes aside, we all know that porn is what drives industry. So I'm okay with it. Look. Hey,
who says this isn't porn?
That's going to be
exactly. But yeah, if you can have a screen where, let's say for instance, there's some great DAW controllers where you get motorized faders on a screen, and right now it's not that great because it's just a piece of glass. But if you get raised bumps on it to where it feels like you're actually dragging a fader and that sort of thing, I mean, that's game changing right there. That would, you won't have to look at your iPad in order to control it. You'll be able to just musically work on something. I mean, that would be huge.
That reminds me of those things that you'd get at fun fairs and stuff. That was like a picture frame full of little pins and needles that you put your face in it, and it
that's right.
Exactly.
It'd be something like that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Like, if you could do that where, like, pixels can, like, raise the screen up a certain amount or whatever, like, in places, that's amazing. And this goes back to what we were talking about Roger Lynn with the Linstrument. before it came out, the original concept for it, and he put this out there for the world to see, like his original idea for it was back when the iPad had first came out. And he saw that and he was like, well, it would be really great if we had velocity sensitivity to an iPad, essentially. And the original idea was that it was going to be a screen underneath of it with like a translucent layer to where you could do all the instrument type stuff and things underneath of it could be changing and showing you what it's doing. It ended up becoming the instrument, which is different from that, but that was the original kind of more ambitious idea.
Can't be mad at him for that. I got to tell you though that while we talk about iPads, I want to add that I don't dig that flat surface workflow for music. Touch surface, I think in theory it sounds great, that idea. And I also agree that there's tons of really dope apps out there, and I'm always surprised at what you can do, because I'll dig in sometimes. I'm always surprised at what you could do and how good it sounds. I just don't dig that the interface and
it's easy for us to say because I'm right here looking at 4 separate screens, and it's absolutely apparent that we're all savage hardware guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in my workshop, and there's a Waldorf wave there, but that's the only thing that's in here right now.
It doesn't.
But you can't. We're preaching to the choir here, right?
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, we're all synth nerds, so it's like, you know, it's
not me.
Yeah, he's got a whole Vegas light show going on back there too.
Yeah. He buys it for the light.
Hardware is overrated.
Yo, last thing before we run too long, I wanted to talk about one more thing here, but I don't know. There's 2 more things, but you know what? Let's go with this. What's the thoughts on the MPC-1? Anybody check that out? Heard anything about it?
I think it looks fantastic for what it is. Like as an entry level, the fact that when you look at the competition and you look at what's out there and everything, I think it's fantastic for what it is. I like the form factor. I know some people were upset that it has smaller pads. I touched it. I used it at NAMM, and I did not find the pad size to be a problem.
Has that not been out for a while? No.
No, it was just announced at NAMM.
So here's the thing. It's you got the MPC Live, which is sort of a rectangular version of the MPC, and it doesn't have CV. It got bigger pads. Then you have the MPC X, which is kind of like the flagship one with 16 knobs and has CV out and all the I/O and stuff. But this one, and then those are like I don't know, $1,500 and $999, but this one is $599, and it uses the same platform, the same software. It's a standalone and hybrid, but it has slightly smaller pads and it has more dedicated knobs, and it still uses the MPC software and everything. It doesn't have as much I/O. You can't put a hard drive in it like you can the other ones, but it does have an SD card, and it does have CV on the back, but it's the stereo breakout CV. So it has, I think, 4 of those where it can split into mono the way the old Electron used to do. So yeah, I think it's kind of cool for $599 to be able to get into that whole MPC world. So yeah, here, let me show you what Ken's showing right now.
So this is the Live, and in place of the Live has 6 outs on it. In place of those 6 outs, you get 2 outs, and then you get the CV stuff on it, which is cool. There's no I don't think there's any phono inputs on it.
I'll be back in a minute.
And yeah, I mean, to me that thing is actually cool for what it is. The price point on it puts it in place with a machine controller, right? So a machine controller, which requires, you know, a laptop, versus that thing which can be used as a controller for MPC software and can be standalone. That kind of really hits some pretty heavy points right there. I think that's impressive. The thing that I really want to see with it is I want to see the MPC software vastly improve. I want to see the same with Machine, to be honest with you, though. I mean, they each have their flaws. Like, Machine has no aftertouch at all. So it's like, what is that about? And then you've got MPC where it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of legacy functionality of the MPC that slows its workflow down. But to me, the MPC-1 it's an entry-level MPC in the same reign as like the MPC 1000. Except this thing, it realistically gives you all the functionality of the bigger MPCs. I mean, especially if you use it as a software controller, and then you can use whatever audio interface you want. So you don't have to worry about how many outputs are actually on that thing. Because if you ever want more outputs, you don't have to buy a $600 expansion 8-out card like we used to have to do on our MPCs.
That's true.
Now you can just buy an audio interface, use the software, and you're good to go.
And then the other thing about it is that, look, this is huge. Right? The MPC X, I love it, but it's huge. It's absolutely
Is that standalone?
Huge. It is standalone and hybrid, so you could do software controller as well. But yeah, it's just humongous, and it has a certain audience. And people who are working in the studio, like people who even travel with this, I don't see why they would want to, but you know, it's absolutely huge. And that thing is like a baby one. It's almost like a junior MPCX. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you get so much of the functionality in a much smaller box.
Like some people are complaining about it not having the battery like the Live has. Well, there was also, I don't want to say a leak, but there was so people kind of looked at the code for the update when the One was coming out, and they saw that there is a MK2 to the Live coming, because in the software it said Live MK2. So it looks like they're going to be doing that. Now the question is the Live going to be the same form factor that it is now, or is it going to be more like the One and then adding, you know, having that more vertical situation. The problem with the Live is this. So the Live has a battery, so you can take it with you anywhere you go. All you need is headphones and this, and you're good to go. Hard drive, USB storage on it, USB host, all that good stuff right on it. So you can rock with this on the couch and make complete beats. That's dope. But this thing will not fit in most laptop bags. It's a little too thick and a little too long to fit in most laptop bags. The new form factor of the One, it looks like it's going to fit in a lot more storage ways, a lot easier, which is pretty dope. I
was going to say, I just want to interrupt you to say that's what she said.
Well, they also put the pads on the wrong side, and that's what I said.
Okay,
so
okay.
I'm going to say it again. They keep doing these damn things for left-handed people. I don't know what the hell they're thinking.
He can't even stop to laugh.
Yeah.
I'm angry. I'm angry because every time I see a guy, I'm like, yo, why do you keep putting your pads on the wrong side? They're like, well, that's how they were back 20 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? It was wrong then, too.
It's true. But you know what, though? The other thing, when people say, why doesn't the MPC One have a battery? I mean, I guess it's a valid question, but the idea is, what other MPC besides the MPC Live ever did?
There's always many people that go on about, oh, this thing should have a battery. And I think from a manufacturer's point of view, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And everyone always goes on about, oh, I want to bitch about I want to bitch about this thing hasn't got a battery. Okay, yeah, it's cool to make music on the move while you're on a fucking plane or a train or you're out on your boat or whatever. But how many actual people sit there, make tracks?
Hey, Brad, I got a question for you then.
It's not the majority.
While they're on the move.
I take a lot of shit with me and then don't use it.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
I do the
and I've
same
done
thing.
that before. Taken some gear with me to a hotel or gone on holiday. It's like, babe, is it all right if I bring my laptop and do some music? And you don't.
And you don't.
You're out there getting pissed.
That's when I actually use my iPad, is when I'm on a plane.
That's what I was going to say. That's that same iPad mentality where it's like, okay, you think you're going to do something, but then you realize you're not in your studio and it's not fun. And no, we're not doing that.
But you only open a music app on your iPad on the plane just to look cool, so that the person next to you.
That's right. So
that's what I do.
Yeah, I'm a music producer.
And you know what? But you know what pisses me off? They never even notice.
Yup. Or they're completely in the country.
Listen, I've got to tell you a story.
Okay, I know.
I've got to tell you a story about coming back from NobCon.
And I got another one.
And I'm going to open my, we're all guys. We all, masturbate now and again. Right?
Hey, now.
Listen.
This is the second time this has come up today.
After NobCon.
It's like, now.
Okay.
Listen,
this just came out my nose, man.
After NobCon, right, I had a late checkout. So I used my late checkout, okay? Thought nothing of it. Got on the plane, and John Mahoney I didn't speak about it with him, but he might have tested this. Got on the plane, got my tablet out. Everyone sat there, settled down. opened my tablet up, got on the street, and I'd forgot to close the window, so the video carried on where it left loud on the plane, and I'm like, pressing trying to close this window, so it closes the window, but the sound's still going. I'm like Isla Instruments t-shirt on the plane. I was absolutely destroyed.
That's a proper business acquaintance right there.
That's
I'm not even
perfect.
I'm not even going to tell my story after that one.
So listen, hold on. I'm going to get back to. I actually had something on topic before Brad went down his masturbation.
I hope John, if John Mahoney is watching, he'd be like, "Oh, that was you, Brad, wasn't it?"
No,
No,
listen.
but here,
Oh,
let me
man.
tell. I will tell my story because it's kind of it goes with the iPad and the thing. Okay, so it has nothing to do with porn or anything. So I go to this beach. My wife and I are in Hawaii, and she likes to hunt for seashells and all kinds of things on the beach. And I bring my iPad, and I got this little Arturia mini lab. Okay, so I'm using Core Gadget, and I'm just like making these. I'm making this. I'm in Hawaii, right? So what am I doing? I'm doing some reggae kind of, feeling the grip. And this guy walks up to me and he's like, "Hey man, you making a mix?" And I already knew. I was like, "Okay, this can't go well after that." And I'm like, "Well, I play synthesizers and stuff." He's like, "Oh, can I hear?" And so I take off my headphones and I put it. I give him to him and he looks like this.
Oh my god!
And he's like,
That's just it's like
and
that
he's like-
expectation reality meme, isn't it?
Yeah.
You think, oh, people are going to come and see what I'm doing and be interested. It will give me a chance to talk about my passion.
Yeah,
People that
yeah.
come up to you are fucking idiots.
Yeah.
I'll leave me
But
alone.
basically, this was the guy. He's like,
That's shit.
"Yeah, have a good one, man."
Dude, that's yes, that's just life.
He literally's
That's-
like,
this
"Go
is
to
the life we
commercial. Go to
live."
commercial. I don't want to."
Oh
That is
my
the way
God.
it goes.
So I'm gonna try to navigate back on the topic here and get back to
So
sticking
anyway,
things.
who wants a room with me at Next Knob?
So Brad, what I wanted to ask you about in regards to the whole battery thing. So like, are you opposed to sticking things into things? Basically, what I want to do is, what about if they had made a cavity into the MPC-1 where you could slide your battery into it?
How much have you drank today, Ken?
What? I don't know what's going on here. I'm just asking about, like, instead of including a battery, what if you had a slot where you could stick your own battery in there, if you know what I'm saying?
From a small manufacturer's perspective, it's very difficult to include something with a battery because there's a whole nother level of safety and testing that you've got to go through.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying
with
just a
shipping and
slot.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Is that the same with like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and
Like, if
batteries
you
and all that stuff?
included
Just has
like,
another
let's-
level of regulation, right?
Well, it's regulation, not so much with Bluetooth because you don't tend to put a custom Bluetooth chip and antenna on your own device. You buy a pre-built module that's already got certifications.
Okay.
But if you're putting a battery, a LiPo or a Li-on battery into your device, there's all of this, loads of shit that you've got. It's
Well,
just
yeah,
like,
but that was the
nah.
criticism, is that a lot of people were saying, well,
especially when you, for a device like CordBot, or not so much the SP2400, but a device like CordBot will happily run on a USB pack that people carry around with their phones.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that people were saying that, well, why couldn't it have had like a cartridge slot where you could just stick your own battery in? You know what I mean? And that way you could solve the problem of, okay, we keep the price point low, we're not including a battery, but if someone wants to go and purchase a battery, they can just slide a battery into it and then power the device from that. Now, the flip side of that is I know for a fact that the MPC Live takes 19 volts to power that thing. So that's probably not happening.
Yeah, so it becomes non-portable from that. Well, it's portable, but or luggable. What do they call it? It's. I don't know. Were you asking me that question? Or?
I thought it was for you. I thought you were answering.
He just stopped mid-answer of his own question. He was just, wait.
Okay.
So about No, so to me, like, you know, I don't think the battery thing is really that big of a deal because we're talking about entry level.
Does the OP now perfect use case for something that uses a battery, the OP1, but does that use a battery?
It's battery powered. It's not a removable battery.
Yeah, so things like that make sense. You brought up a picture of the S2400 a minute ago, and I don't know if that was because you were going to ask if that has a battery, but the thing weighs like 20 odd fucking pounds. There's absolutely no point.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because Ken mentioned about having a slot to slide a battery in, and so I wanted to bring it up because for something like that, if you were going to do anything remotely close to that, I would just assume having, you know, the way you do on an MPC, where there's a hard drive slot, right? You unscrew it the way an old Mac was, you unscrew it, you put a battery in it, and that's what you can expand it with. But I can't see like a hole on the back where you slide a battery in. I don't know.
No, I mean the S2400 would run on a battery. It doesn't consume a lot of power.
I mean, truthfully, who the hell wants to carry something that big around to make portable music around with? But I mean, you also have products like the Jupiter XM, which I think is brilliant. The fact that you can battery power it. Wow, it's got a built-in speaker. Yeah, it's got a built-in speaker. And you can just jam out on the couch and annoy the living shit out of your wife. You know, that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, from what I hear.
Stop playing the piano, please.
Yeah,
and like the Novation, what's the Novation Circuit? It has like a built-in speaker, and the built-in speaker is not even that bad, to be honest with you. But it's like, you know, these are portable jamming devices. These aren't like you're in the studio doing like a full creation kind of thing. Like, to me, it's just a different vibe. Like,
I don't think I would ever be put off buying something because I would sit there and think to myself, oh, this thing could possibly run on batteries, but I'm not going to buy it because it can't run on batteries.
I agree.
Have you guys ever modified something that didn't have batteries to run on batteries? Because I've done that quite a few times.
I'm not telling that story.
Like, I have an Ultranova. My Ultranova has.
Now, let me go back to my hotel story.
No, but you make a valid point though. Like, really, let's deal with reality. If somebody wants a certain machine for making music and it speaks to them, it's the kind of machine that they can get with and really make music with. If it doesn't have battery and it can't be going out somewhere to make music like on a porch or something, it's not going to deter them from buying the thing.
No,
you know.
But there is a culture of that. Some of the most ridiculous questions, like, oh, I would have bought, and they're legitimate questions, I guess, to the people that are interested in purchasing your product. And I've got to use myself as an example here, but they'll be like, oh, well, this thing looks awesome, but it doesn't run on batteries, so I'm out. I'm like, okay. This thing would have been fucking great if it was blue.
Yeah,
because it's not blue.
then
I'm not buying
it. Here. That's
and
right.
I honestly don't ever understand, and I always, without fail, get pissed off with those people because I'm like, you're making music, dude.
Yeah, and I've seen that where people
because it's not blue. It puts you off your fucking game for making a killer track because it's not the right color. What?
Yeah, isn't that like I would have bought that roast beef sandwich if it was turkey?
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's exactly it.
Sorry, I don't. Yeah, exactly.
So, but I want to bring up Daniel Still is typically on the show, and he always says, like, people that have those kinds of concerns and bring those kinds of things up, it's a smokescreen, and they're not really making music anyway.
So then why bother emailing me then?
Yeah, because it's the end thing.
This is what I was trying to show is that basically the Ultranova
your blue Novation there, Ken.
Well, this can run off a USB. So I just put a piece of Velcro on it and I stick a USB battery pack to it, and I could sit on my couch and just kind of jam away and do whatever and do some sound design or whatever with some headphones on. Like, that's all fine, and it didn't add any cost to the product. As long as I have a way of like doing that kind of stuff, if it's capable, then it's a non-issue. Like, it doesn't bother me that it didn't come with a battery or whatever. I wasn't expecting it to. But if I can make it do that, then that's just a little added benefit to me.
Yeah, but isn't that a different issue? Because you're like, hey, this is cool, I can do that. But you wouldn't have looked at that and go, I'm not buying it because I can't. No,
definitely not. I definitely wouldn't have not bought it because of that. Like, Unless we're talking about something. If you got something like this and it can't run off of batteries, then yeah, that's probably a problem. You know what I mean? But if it's not a pocket, device, then I'm not expecting it to run on batteries.
That's it. And then too, like Accurate just said, I mean, there's enough portable batteries and stuff out there that you could use to do that stuff, like almost anything. I mean, I have I can't remember the name of the thing, but he just mentioned it, and I have one of those too. And it's a portable battery. It has, you know, you could plug things in via USB or a regular sort of outlet. But I mean, you can do that stuff. And then too, I don't think people think about if you get all these companies that add batteries in every single thing that only 20% of their customers are going to use or maybe use anyway. And the price has to go up, and it just doesn't make sense when you start thinking about that. Look, Ken's muted. That's good. Hey, so
I had no idea that there was a live chat. I'm sorry. I was
it's all good.
StreamYard thing. So
yeah.
So, I'm not even a member. I can't even comment on this because I'm on the video, but I haven't even logged in yet.
You can go to the YouTube stream to do that.
You could. Yeah. But hey, I think we've run a little long, and I actually have enjoyed myself. I enjoyed the conversation. Anything in closing, guys?
Well, Jim, you got some legal advice for everybody?
I got plenty of legal advice if you got $180 an hour.
There it is.
Well,
are you 180
cents?
I'll tell you right here behind me. I got this Ensoniq VFX SD. I bought this off a suit and tie guy.
Oh, nice.
And there, you know, that polyphonic aftertouch it's just fucking amazing what you can do with that, especially as a keyboard player. Because, and this is where I really, you know, I know Ken's got that little grin about, Hydrosynth. See him, look at him. But I've never used a synthesizer that had it. Well, I have I've just never really utilized it.
Yeah.
And it's just something as a keyboard player, especially, that you can bring so much expression and so much. It makes it a whole different synthesizer, a whole different instrument when you can utilize that polyphonic aftertouch. It's just awesome. It's really great.
You know what, Jim? I want to tell you too. Like while we're on the air, I don't know if people realize, but your YouTube music only synth demos are crazy dope. So keep up the good work, man. I've noticed that, you know, there's always people that are like, yo, I want to hear this thing without talking. And well, when I review stuff, I talk. That's what I do. But I love that you do, you know, sound only demos. And 9 times out of 10, it's like, you know, you're probably giving a lot of people a lot of sample fodder, but the shit sounds awesome. So
well, and how many
I'm going to have to go and listen to them.
Oh, maybe
they're really dope, man.
Plus, how many times are you going to get a lawyer to shut up?
That's right. Just shove a good synth up in the.
It's just like shut up and play, man.
And you did get a chance to play Hydra at the Hydrosynth at NobCon too. Yeah, because the polyphonic aftertouch on Hydrosynth is a good bit different. Because I have an SQ80 over here, and the mechanical action is way more pleasurable on Hydrosynth. As
I agree,
you know, just the way that it's set up and all. But I'm pretty sure
mechanical action is way more pleasurable.
I mean, there's a ton of them, man. Ken's in rare form today.
I love figuring my mechanical action.
But that's one. Actually, that's kind of one of the things that I do. That's what I do with Sonic State. I mean, like a small show like that's coming up. Synthplex is coming up. So I'll be doing that? It's March 26th, something like that. 26, 27, 28, somewhere around there. It's in Burbank in LA. And I'll be doing
in California.
I know.
Yeah.
But I'll be doing all the Sonic State coverage for that. But when we go to big shows where Nick and everybody's at, what I do is the sounds only stuff. That's what I do, because I can sit with a synthesizer for an hour. I mean, how many times do you get to do that on a showroom, on a NAMM show floor?
Yeah,
those guys, they're way too busy to do that. So I can sit there with a Wave State or, you know, whatever it might be, and do that. And I really do enjoy that. So I appreciate you saying that, Corey, especially that those sounds only things that you like them.
Yeah, they're really dope, man. I mean, no doubt.
And do you do sound sets as well, Jim, for those machines that you do?
Well, if I had more time, I started doing one for the Peak, and I got to 26 patches, and I just had to like actually do life, unfortunately.
When it gets in the way sometimes, life.
Yeah,
doing life.
Such a bummer life. I wish
That's
I
hilarious.
had one.
Yeah, but what I was trying to say about all that was just that even the old rudimentary style polyphonic aftertouch keyboards, it adds so much. Because like I said, like I have the SQ80, and while the action isn't nearly as nice as a Hydrasynth, it's still like it. I saw a lot of people when Hydrasynth came out that were saying like, oh, this is going to be too hard to play, or that's going to require too much technical ability of keyboard. Listen, Brad knows I'm a horrible keyboard player, but I use that polyphonic aftertouch and I love it. Like, it's so easy to use. It's such an intuitive thing to do. Like, if you want to just wiggle a pitch of your lead note or whatever, and you can, those little things, it's absurd to me that dropped off as synthesizers continued forward.
Well, I know we're kind of over, but
go for it.
But as a synthesizer player and as a musician, there's a difference between being a musician and a synthesist. And I consider myself to be both, because I love to just create sound, but I also love to create, there's something about an interaction with a musician and an instrument. You see it with a guitar player, a violin player, and what they're able to evoke from that instrument is amazing. And having that polyphonic aftertouch just gives a musician a huge added layer of expression, and it's unfortunate, I guess. And I know I see Glenn in there. I can't respond, typing, but we talked about this a little bit at NobCon about that aftertouch and how it's kind of gone. I've even seen people say, why even put aftertouch on a keyboard? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Especially in a time like today when we were just talking about the Linstrument, and then you have stuff like Rolly Seaboard, all these very expressive instruments that are out there right now. Like, why shouldn't the synth kind of have a little more expressiveness? This is kind of the day and age where that should be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It can't all just be off and on switches. And I agree that more expressiveness is like brings the instrument to life, especially if you're a player.
Yeah.
Some of them I don't like. Like the Rolly, is really cool how sensitive that platform is. But when you start to drag notes, when you start to drag notes on the Rolly, the membrane kind of like folds up under your fingers, so you have to kind of develop a way of like kind of tilting your hand just the right way and whatnot. Like some of that stuff I dig, and some of it I kind of don't. Like the Rolly stuff, I would love to see them do like a drum pad controller with that thing. But as far as like a full keyboard where I'm sliding my hand across it, and it didn't really, I don't know. It's really impressive what some of their demo guys can do. Put it that way. Like Marco, man, when he did that that Jimi Hendrix thing with it was amazing and stunning. But he is the exception to the rule with those things. Like they are just very. It's a very fiddly instrument to play. Yeah,
and I'm sure that if you develop the technique, that's one thing. But to me, it feels like I'm playing a sponge. It just doesn't work for me. But that's I haven't had a lot of experience. And maybe next time, one thing coming on the scene is that the Osmos.
Yeah, that looks great.
That looks very
really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about how long that thing is going to stand up over time, which is kind of like a speculation thing, and it could last forever. Who knows? But just the way that the mechanical aspect of it is, I wonder if all those keys are going to stay how they should.
Well, I got one of these. This is the what's this thing called?
Oh, Expressive E Touche.
Yeah, the Touche.
Yeah.
And what they've got going on in here with these with these rubber, these different things, it's extremely well built. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're going to show that? Yeah. So, I mean, this is like the inside of the Touche.
Yep.
And from what I understand and talking to these guys, every key
is that
of the Osmos is like one of these.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty impressive too.
Yeah, and that thing is crazy sensitive. Like,
yeah,
I've messed with those before too, and you could just like lightly scrape your fingernail on it and get, it's really cool. And Corey was stupid to sell it. or bring it back. Excuse me. He had it for a weekend.
I was having a rough Friday, and I went to Perfect Circuit, and I picked the thing up, and I made music, and I loved it on Saturday and hated it on Sunday, and took it back on Monday. Then a year later, I'm like, I shouldn't have taken that back.
You should have.
I remember when he got it, and I was so excited that he got it because I liked it so much when I tried it. And then, like, the end of the weekend came, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm returning it." And I was like,
"Hey, I don't like that you do my voice like that. That sounds stupid."
He should have. Corey, we live in California, man. You should have smoked more weed than you would have loved it.
Guys, I've got to head out.
All right.
Hey, Brad, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for
inviting me, Brad.
And I can't wait to see you guys again soon.
Go check out islainstruments.com and sign up for the newsletter.
All right, take it easy, Brad. Well, actually, yeah, and I plan on getting a Touche again because I was a little hasty. So, you know.
This one has CV out.
Mm-hmm. That was the one I had with the
That's
CV
the one
out.
he had. He had the nice one, and then he just went and got rid
too,
of it.
It was partly buyer's remorse, right? You know, it was kind of impulsive.
I think you had gotten like 2 other really nice delay pedals at the same time.
Yeah, it was a lot going on, and so like and when I listen back to the music that I made with it, is when I think like, yo, I should have held on to that thing. That thing was dope. So
yeah.
Yeah,
those things are really cool. They're shockingly good.
But the whole idea behind what they're doing and going back to the polyphonic aftertouch and hydrosynth is just adding a layer of expressivity and being able to, as a musician. And again, I understand a lot of people are into the sequencing, and and that's great. I'm no classical pianist or anything like that, but there's just something about being able to use your hands and your fingers and things like this in that moment of being able to add whatever it is you're feeling at the time. And, you know, all of these things just give us that extra layer of stuff. Yeah, I'm having a Joe Biden moment here. You know the thing.
It's cool because of the thing.
You know the thing.
You know the thing. I love it. It's so hilarious. But you know what though? So Accurate Beats says it right here. He says it's super cool, but mine just ended up in a drawer after a few weeks, and that's what I was also concerned with. But for some reason, I guess this is the moment that I would have pulled it back out of the drawer.
Well,
you know what I mean?
But see, that's the thing is maybe it does end up in the drawer, and then next month you're like, let me pull that thing out, and then it inspires you to do something else.
And that's it. It was very inspiring. I have to admit, it was very inspiring.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I would like to I'd like to have one. So if anybody wants to donate one to me, go ahead and send it to me because I
Accurate will send you his.
I know. He's gonna have to do that. Make that happen.
He says touche, pussycat. So we're gonna close it on now. I appreciate everybody coming by. We had 50 of our best friends spending time with us today, and it was a good show. And Ken, did you have whiskey? No, you had what you have today?
Oh, I was drinking Dogfish Head gin. So yeah.
Well, there you go.
Not going overboard, just indulging a little bit. You know, I used to drink Bullet Bourbon, and I stopped supporting them. And you can Google to find out why. But I will admit, I think that their stuff tastes great. But man, yeah, I won't drink their stuff anymore.
No doubt.
Well, there's other synth related stuff we could talk about regarding that issue, probably. But
true.
My thing was, $19.99 at Target.
That's it. It worked.
Actually, that's really good for that. Yeah, that made me just like, oh, really?
That's why I bought it.
Oh, you just see my morals like slide off my back.
Tim's like, I wonder if Grubhub will go to Target for me.
Hey, I just want to give. Speaking of whiskey, real quick, I do want to give a quick shout out about the Stillhouse sampler kit. So, myself and Winston Churchill Edwards, we just released a free sample pack. You can get it at shop.fluxwithit.com. It's free. Like, all you got to do is just put your information in. I know some people say, putting my email in.
Oh, it doesn't matter what those folks see.
Well, if you think like that, then don't go to my site because I don't care. It's a requirement of Shopify that you put your email information in there. So anyway, Stillhouse Sampler Kit is completely free. It's, I think, 4 or 5 drum kits. I can't remember exactly. For machine format, and also broken out into .wav format, so you can easily get to the folders of kick, snare, and all that. But basically, we went to Balcones Distillery in Texas, and they gave us free reign of the barrel house, the still, everything. So we set up mics in there. I mean, they've got massive stills in there, and I set microphones up in there and recorded all kinds of stuff, hit stuff, scrape things, all kinds of weirdness, and made some sample packs out of it, and it's free. So if you want to go check that out,
and I'll put my 2 cents in on it. I got to put some video out on it too, but it's a great sample pack. And like for me, I was talking about how I was old school, earlier. This reminds me of some of that. Like I got into Art of Noise and those and like when Depeche Mode was doing all these they'd go into a warehouse and sample a whole bunch of shit, and it's like stuff banging and clanging and scraping. That's what this is about.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's it's kind of found sound recordings inside of these places, and then I did some processing on the sounds to clean them up and get them to where that they're gonna hit the right way and that sort of thing, and layer, and I layered sounds to get them kind of just right. So they're pretty punchy, and I feel like tonally the kit is cohesive, in a kind of musical way. So I'd highly recommend just getting it and throwing it into your sampler and enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put some stuff. I've done some audio. I just haven't done any video yet.
Yeah, we're gonna be releasing a much larger version of the sample pack in the future, but I wanted to put that out there as just a free, here you go, and also serious shout out to Winston for making it happen.
Yeah,
because he's the one who got me out there and got us access to the distillery to do it.
And I just want to mention this, and my joints ain't free. So
give me that money.
Dot Matrix sample pack on BeatPPL.com. What's dope about this is I used it's actually an official sample pack in conjunction or in collaboration with Noise Engineering. So I used a Noise Engineering skiff and made a sample pack of really dope drums and just weird sounds and stuff. And you can get that on BeatPPL.com. It's called Dot Matrix. Using a lot of cool stuff, and especially, obviously, Noise Engineering. So on that note, Jim, I want to thank you for coming by the show, man. It has actually been, what they say, a plum-pleasing pleasure having you on.
Hey, I appreciate the invite.
No doubt, no doubt. Ooh, we got to have you on more often, man.
Great.
Ken, bye. BeatPPL Podcast 59. See you guys later.